Trump has thrown tariffs on everybody and his dog, even on a island somewhere that there's nothing but penguins on. The penguins are tariff. Anyway, he's pretty much put a tariff on everybody in the world, and various reactions. Here's what I think might happen. I don't really know for sure what's going on. I know what he does. I'll take Vietnam. Vietnam, when he started threatening these tariffs, they voluntarily came and says, okay, we'll reduce any tariffs we have on U.S. goods. And they pretty much almost knocked them down to zero. They also said, we will start bringing more of your, we'll buy more from the United States. Now, what this whole thing's about is Trump made this, 46% tariff on these guys. They never had, it's supposed to be reciprocal tariffs, but it wasn't. There was no tariffs that were anywhere near that high from Vietnam to the United States. It was the trade deficit. Okay, we buy a lot of shoes and other things like that from Vietnam, but Vietnam doesn't buy as much from us. And so he thinks that's bad. Now, I'm going to tell you, I said this before, this is just a bunch of crap. It doesn't mean anything. Because we buy more from one country than they buy from us. That really doesn't mean anything. It's not like they've gathered up all this money and we've sent them all this money and they've got all this, power over us or something. None of that stuff's true. They just spend it like anyone would. He gets the idea that a trade deficit is something that we are actually supporting these other countries. We're sending money to them to support them, and they should be sending money back. Okay, none of that's true. It's just a bunch of baloney. But this is how he calculated these tariffs on these guys. Well, like I said, they voluntarily dropped virtually all their tariffs on anything in the U.S. And it wasn't very much anyway. It was like 9%. And there were various things that were higher and lower. But they said, look, we'll just stop doing it altogether and we'll buy more of your stuff. Well, the question is, will Trump accept that from these countries? I mean, these countries can't compete with us. We buy their shoes and, other things, dresses and, all sorts of clothing and stuff like that. I think they even send us some computers or something. But they really can't compete with us. And if we shut down our market for them, it's disastrous to them. They can't do much of anything. The big countries, China, European Union and stuff, they can fight us, but these guys can't. So they're trying to negotiate and try to get these things down so they can continue producing their product and having the Americans buy it. Now look at the positive of this. Vietnam sends us shoes. I just take shoes, that's an obvious one. Maybe it takes $25, $35 to make a shoe. They end up selling for $100, $150 here. Well, if you put those tariffs on, we're looking at $200 for a pair of shoes. Yeah, that's not going to work well. And who does that hit? Elon Musk? Yeah. He's going to have to pay more money for shoes. He's only got many billions of dollars. Okay, it's going to hit the family that doesn't have anything. They end up paying more because they got to have shoes for their kids and stuff. I mean, it's just, you pay a bunch more for this stuff, and it's just inflation. What good does this do? Well, if Trump's smart, he'll negotiate with them and drop the tariffs on these guys. That brings up another little problem that nobody's talked about a whole lot. The reason he put for putting all these tariffs on was national security emergency, blah, blah, blah. Well, if it's a national security emergency, why are you negotiating? That may, end up with a legal problem for them. Of course, they take quite a while to make any settlement on it. But yeah, that's one of the other problems with this. Of course, it's not a national emergency. Everybody was doing fine until this idiot decided we were going to tariff everybody in the world. To give you an idea, 2024, Vietnam exported goods worth $119.5 billion to the U.S. and spent $15.1 billion on imports into its economy. Now, that's not a whole lot that they bought, but guess what? These guys they're not rich over here. They don't buy a whole lot. They need to sell a lot in order to build up their economy. Well, okay. You're telling them they got to buy a bunch more from us so that the trade balance is even. That's never, ever going to happen. That's why we buy from these countries, because they have lower labor costs. Do you want to really build track shoes in the U.S.? You're not going to do that. It's like build Barbie dolls here. We're not going to do that either. Our labor costs will be far too high. And so we use these countries for that. Let's see if he actually negotiates. And then we'll look at this again. And that's it on this one.